Hey guys, welcome back to another review. Today we're looking at the Vaxee Zygen NP-01G, which is a mouse made by Vaxee. They're kind of the new kids on the block, but they've got a lot of experience on their team, so I wouldn't really worry. After a week with the mouse, you know, the quality of the product rivals the best, and the attention to detail and passion that I can see in the mouse is exceptional, and I'm very excited to do this review and give you more details on it. So let's jump straight into it, guys. If you like the video, hit the like button, and if you love the video, hit the sub. Let's jump into it. The Vaxee Zygen NP-01G is the second iteration of the Vaxee NP-01. They worked with Zygen on this mouse, who's an Asian professional player, and they worked with him on the shape specifically. So this is an ergo ambi shape, so it's going to have ergo and ambidextrous features on the mouse. The weight of the mouse is 75 grams on their website, but if you put it on a scale, it will probably come in close to 78 due to the extra cable. Just quickly before we start the review, guys, I just want to say that Vaxee do have a really useful website if you have any, questions on the design philosophies, how the mice were made, or you're just interested in the Zygen brand, because the Zygen is actually a professional player that worked with Vaxee on creating the mouse. So yeah, if you have any more questions or you're interested in any more details, then I would head over to their website. But let's jump into the review. Okay, so first things first, what we're going to jump into is the clicks. So the left and right click, you will notice that they are coated, but what I would basically say they feel closest to is like if you've ever felt a Razer mouse that's sort of textured plastic on there, they kind of feel like a slightly more textured version of that. On a lot of videos, you might see that they actually look quite rough, but they aren't rough at all feeling, they just feel slightly textured. So very good coating, no complaints there. The left and right clicks, now these are kind of the stars on the show on the Vaxee mice. You can really tell that they put in a lot of thought and effort into the clicks. The clicks are basically, they have very small pre and post, like very small pre and post, and they also feel extremely tactile but also light. They're kind of perfectly tuned in my opinion, and I know perfect is going to be different for everyone, but for me they are just snappy, but they're also light. I've never had any accidental clicks in game, but I also know exactly when I clicked, and there's nothing like, on the latest Zowie mice there seems to be a lot of like post travel, and there's also quite a bit of pre, but because these are separated from the shell, they seem to have really like fine-tuned these. And I know that Vaxee have a method inside the mouse of tuning them to make the clicks heavier or lighter, so they're definitely using that on every single mouse to get it perfect, which is nice to see. The scroll wheel is basically very close to what Zowie is, but this is 24 step instead of 16, and also it feels a little bit tighter, I would say. And the tightness of the scroll wheel is something I really appreciate, because it just makes the mouse feel a little bit more premium. When you've got a loose rattly scroll wheel, it just doesn't really feel good. But this one is, if you like a Zowie scroll wheel, you're gonna like this one. If you're kind of on the edge of a Zowie one, then you're probably gonna like this. But if you despise Zowie scroll wheels, then you probably won't like this one either, as it is still loud and very tactile. One thing I will say about the Vaxee scroll, which I love, is it never gets stuck in between a step. Like if I try to stop it in between a step, it just won't allow me. Whereas with like a G Pro Superlight, I could stop it in between steps, and then when I let go and I go to move to like another step, I might like double jump or something, like or I might accidentally jump because the scroll wheel goes back into slot. So yeah, I actually do really appreciate this scroll wheel now I'm playing games like Valorant. And then you've got the side buttons. The side buttons are really good. They basically have next to no pre or post travel. They're very snappy, light. They're kind of like a lighter S2 or an S1 button. The S2 and S1 were kind of like the best iterations of Zowie side buttons in my opinion, but they were a bit too tension. They were quite heavy. These are light and tactile, but not too light. I think the buttons on this mouse are really exceptional, and they've definitely taken it to the next level. So now let's move on to the coating of the mouse, and this is going to be the biggest hit or miss. If you're happy with gloss, then you're going to love this gloss. I think it's a slightly improved Zowie gloss coating, and I'm comparing it back to the Zowie a lot because, one, they have ex-Zowie employees on their team, but also because I also have a Zowie S2 on my desk that I bought recently to compare. But the gloss coating is like a slightly improved Zowie gloss. The matte version is kind of a matte gloss. I haven't had much chance to try that one, but I wish that they would, I've heard that coating isn't the best, and I would prefer a matte coating personally, because that's what I've always used, and I just prefer the feeling of it in the hand. So if they could update the NP-01 to have the new gloss, the new matte version, then that would be a brilliant mouse for me, and it would probably be my end game. But the gloss, if you like gloss, you're gonna love this gloss. But what I've done actually is I've sanded this down just because I prefer the feeling of a matte finish. But I never had any slippage issues with this mouse. It's just gloss wasn't really my preference. So the feet. So the feet that came with the mouse was the 0.45 millimeter feet. I would definitely prefer if they added the 0.6 millimeters as standard. I believe they're doing that on the NP-01S and maybe the Outset AX now. So I would like to see them, you know, revise their NP-01 models and add the 0.6 millimeters on as standard, because I actually bought the 0.6s with the mouse. Now I used the 0.45s. They weren't bad. But they were just a little bit thin. The only time I ever felt my mouse scratching on the bottom of the mouse pad was when I was really putting in a lot of pressure. But when I was gaming, that never happened, and I do put a lot of pressure when I play. So I honestly think it's only when you're going to be forcing it, or if you have a very textured mouse pad, you might feel it. But personally, you know, I don't think 0.45 is really good enough for mouse feet. They're going to wear down quite fast. Apparently, it's because that's optimal for the lift-off distance and stuff like that. But even on low, the lift-off distance felt quite high to me because the feet were so thin. So yeah, I would definitely like 0.6s out of the box. As for the actual feeling, they are slightly on the faster end, I would say, of PTFE, which kind of threw me off for the first few days. I had to adapt to them. I do still prefer aftermarket feet, but you know, if you're not really used to aftermarket feet, and you're used to like using the PTFEs that come with the mouse usually, then these are going to be probably better than what you're used to. Okay guys, I've recorded this bit 3 times now, and it's almost reached 10 minutes 3 times in a row. So I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible, but also as informative as possible. Let's talk about the shape, which is the star of the show here. Vaxee, they are doing great jobs on their shape. They're really putting in the effort. They're really putting in the attention to detail, which is what I've noticed when holding this mouse. So let's go over that. So first things first is the left side groove. So the thumb groove. The thumb groove is extremely good on this mouse. And if you're used to ergo shapes, this is where you're going to feel most at home, because ergo shapes generally bend inwards towards the center of the mouse. Whereas the, as you can see on like the S2, for example, it does ever so slightly, but nowhere near as extreme as the NP-01. And same thing with the Superlight. It's a very flat, straight side. Which you do feel in the hand. And what I feel like that does for your thumb is angled more inwards to the mouse, and that just seems to give me more control and more precision, I feel like, when I'm playing with the mouse. Whereas the S2, you can see how flat my thumb sits on the side there, and it just doesn't feel like I have as much control or as much power. It's a weird to say much power, but like this position, it's like prime position for my thumb to be in control of the mouse, which I really do enjoy. And I don't get that with either of the other ones because the thumb groove just isn't extreme enough. Second thing is the front right side of the mouse. The front right side of the mouse, in my opinion, is done extremely well. The front right side of the mouse actually flares out ever so slightly to give you that edge, and that's another trait of an ergo mouse, because what the edge here does, at least for me, is it gives me that extra little bit of precision in my long range shots, because I have that extra bit more of control to really control the mouse. Every single finger is getting an equal amount of contact with the mouse, which is really nice. Whereas on the S2, it just feels like I really need to, you know, push my pinky under here like this, and then it also feels like my pinky isn't really doing much. The Superlight, on the other hand, isn't as bad because it's more of a flat edge. I do feel like my pinky does get more control on the Superlight design, but again, not as well as the NP-01, as I actually prefer it to ever so slightly flare out. The only issue with the flaring on an ergo shape like this is if you're like, you know, really trying to claw it or fingertip the mouse. When you try to fingertip, for example, you can see how far your pinky is going to sit back. It's going to sit right back on the edge, which is quite wide. And what that means is that when you're picking up the mouse and stuff, you don't really generally get as good of a hook on the mouse. So if you do hold the mouse up front, or you know, you like to play palm or claw or anything like that, this shape is going to be great, because you know, I think the pinky position is perfect and closer to the front. Okay, and now third thing, let's talk about the back right side of the mouse. Now the back right side of the mouse is probably going to be the most hit or miss for people, and I think those who are going to say miss are going to be ones who are die-hard ambidextrous mouse fans, or they're people who just, you know, haven't really given the mouse enough time. And the reason I say that is because the back right side of the mouse feels kind of like a ball in your hand. It feels like a very gradual pressure all the way around here, whereas the S2, you can see you've got like quite a ledge there, and same with the Superlight. You just kind of wrap your hand around the right side of the mouse, and that basically creates a lot of pressure right in one spot on your hand. And the main thing that I noticed in game was, let's say there was a specific type of flick I was trying to hit, because I was doing Kovacs, and I was trying to hit like down to the right flicks, and I would notice that it's exceptionally harder on an S2 and a Superlight compared to the NP-01. And I think it's just because the rounded edge really gives you a lot of mobility in that area. You're not really restricted on any angle. And I always felt like with certain ambidextrous mice that were a little bit larger in the hand, I would always find it hard to go certain directions. Certain directional flicks were harder than others. Whereas with the NP-01, in combination with obviously the extra support on the pinky, the thumb groove, and now this right side that doesn't dictate where the mouse really puts a lot of pressure in my hand, it just gave me a very consistent and also accurate and mobile gaming experience. Like it's very interesting, the shape, and it's really good. The hump is towards the rear of the mouse. It's not too tall where it's going to be hitting your hand a lot, but it's also tall enough that you can rest your knuckles on there if you want to play like that. And I think they've done really good with the shape. The shape also, you can see it tapers in here. That just allows the mouse not to hit the bottom of your hand more. And also because the mouse is shorter, which something that I found out that I've loved recently. I used to always go for slightly bigger mice, but because the mouse is shorter, it actually allows a lot more space down the rear of my hand. So when I'm doing for vertical adjustments, I don't feel like the mouse is really hitting my hand much. Whereas with like a super light, you can see it's a lot more stiff looking. Whereas with the NP-01, I can really get it into the back of my hand because it's shorter, but it also retains the width and the grip width for it to be comfortable, and that right side is perfect for the right side of my hand as well. So overall, I think for most people this is going to be a hit. You're going to love this shape if you get used to it, unless you're an ambidextrous diehard fan who needs that really locked in feeling on the right side, if that's sort of like how you really hold your mouse. But if you've ever been used to an ergo shape or ever used one before, I'm sure you'll be able to get used to the shape and you're going to absolutely love it. So another point of conversation or nitpick with the NP-01 is the weight balancing. Now, the weight balancing on the NP-01 is very good. However, it's ever so slightly forward heavy, and I believe this could be due to the cable or the extra internals in the front to keep everything, very sturdy and well built and premium feeling. But yeah, I think the weight distribution is just ever so slightly forward, and I do think that as the mice get better and better, weight balancing is going to become more and more of a conversation or a talking point, just because a good weight balanced mouse can feel extremely good in the hand, and I do believe it can help you perform better if the mouse is extremely well balanced. And that's something we've been seeing with the super light. People always comment on how good the mouse feels in the hand, and that is due to how light it is, but also because of how good the weight distribution is on the mouse. So what Vaxee have done here is they've built the foundation exceptionally well for a top tier gaming mouse, and you just absolutely love to see a company, come out of nowhere and basically do what they've done here. But Vaxee, like every mouse, there is always improvements, and if I was to nitpick, if we're looking for like a version 2 of the NP-01, I would love to see 0.6mm feet as standard, and I believe that is going to be done as they've started doing that on their Outset AX and their NP-01S. I would also love to see a larger version of the NP-01, as there are people out there who would just, prefer slightly larger mice. I don't really think they have to go much bigger than this because of the hump, the size of the hump. I think just a little bit more length would be really appreciated by some players. But one thing I would say is that if you are going to go larger or make it a version 2 of the NP-01, I would love for you guys to really try and get it down to the low 70s in weight. And I know as a company, you're not really focusing on lightweight right now, but let me give you a few reasons why I think it would be really beneficial for you guys. Firstly, obviously marketing is going to be great for marketing your mouse and getting yourselves into the game a little bit faster, but that isn't the main reason. The main reason is obviously you guys are focusing towards the top competitive players, and you want your mice to be the top choice for competitive players. And coming from someone who used to play Fortnite and played like 10-hour tournaments every single day, flicking your mouse around as fast as you could, playing a 10-hour-a-day tournament, over like 3 days, you used to play at like 3-day weekends kind of thing. A mouse like this would definitely cause some fatigue, and I know that halfway through the tournament I would probably not perform my best if I was playing Fortnite. It might be different for Valorant or CSGO, but having a lighter mouse really does reduce fatigue, especially after long hours of gameplay, and it just allows you to perform at your peak performance for a longer period of time. Whereas a heavy mouse, yeah, you do get that slight extra bit of stability. I think you can keep that stability in the low 70s while also keeping wrist fatigue and hand fatigue down to a minimum. So that would be great to see. You don't have to go super light. I'm not looking at 60 grams. I love the build quality. I love the extra stability of a bit more weight. But you know, the low 70s I think is really the perfect you know, middle ground between stability and also keeping that wrist fatigue and your performance as high as possible for as long as possible. And just some closing thoughts, guys. Firstly, I like to say that if you're going to get this mouse, definitely give it a few weeks to really understand the shape and how it feels in the hand, because it is such a unique shape that it is going to take some time, especially that back right side. I feel like a lot of people are going to have some issues when they first get the mouse, but over time you're going to learn to love that, and you're going to really enjoy how much mobility and interpalm movement that allows. Also, Vaxee, little word to you guys. Well friggin' done, guys. You've just really knocked it out of the park with your first mouse. The quality, it really, like, this mouse just really shows how much attention to detail you guys have put into the mouse, and it also shows how much you're really striving for perfection, and you're also working a lot on the core values of what makes a great gaming mouse. So I just gotta appreciate you guys for that. Only a few words of improvements, because you know, every mouse that's striving for perfection always has, you know, a few small improvements. No mouse is perfect. Firstly, the feet, you know, I really appreciate 0.6mm feet on this one, and also going with a matte coating, the, you know, the updated matte. If you could refresh the NP-01 with that, I think that would be an amazing move from you guys, and would also get a lot of people looking back at the NP-01 who maybe didn't consider it to begin with because, you know, they didn't like the glossier coatings. But yeah, and also another thing, Vaxee, if you guys have an Outset AX lying around in the warehouse, a matte version that you guys want me to review, I don't even mind sending it back or anything. I just really want to see, you know, what you guys got going on in your new shapes, and just give a good review on it, to be honest with you. Just really dive in deep with what you guys are doing, because I don't know why, I just have this feeling that I really want to support Vaxee, because they just seem like my sort of company. Like, they're just doing what I would have done if I was to make a gaming mouse. I would have tried to do it this way. I would have got a pro player, I would have done the build quality as good as I possibly could, and I would have really focused on what the players want. None of that, you know, just random ass stuff that people don't, you know, like, oh, there's so many things I could go over as whatever. But anyway, Vaxee, good job. I really appreciate it. Thank you for starting up and making mice, to be honest with you. You guys are really coming in as the saviors of the mouse game right now. Just one more quick thing as well before I finish the video off. I did have an issue with static friction on the mouse, and that's basically when you first plug in the mouse, I would find that it wouldn't track at all. Like, the sensor wouldn't work, the buttons wouldn't work, but the lights and everything were lit up on the bottom of the mouse. So the way you fix that, because I did message Vaxee and I got their support team, they were really helpful. They replied really fast, and they basically just said that you need to plug in the mouse while holding the mouse wheel down and the front button down, and then what will happen is the debounce delay buttons will start flashing. Now, this turns something off and on inside of the mouse. I'm not sure what it turns off and on. So sometimes you might do it, you'll hold it down, it will turn it off, on, then back off again, and it still won't work. So you need to do it again, let it blink once, put it back down, and then it will work fine. But that seems to be what worked well for me. But anyway, guys, that is my review of the NP-01G. Really happy with the mouse. You know, exceptional work, Vaxee, good job, and I'm excited to see what you guys do next. Guys, this is gonna be a bit cheeky, but if you do have an Outset AX matte or anything lying around and you want me to do a review on that, I would absolutely love to give you guys another review, as I really enjoy using your products. But that is all from me, guys. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you dislike, hit the dislike. And if you love the video, hit the sub. I appreciate the feedback, everyone. I appreciate the support. You guys have been insane recently. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Peace out.